Wow! A round of applause for Kenya Maritime Authority Choir. You would think that these guys come from the DRC, but they are just sons and daughters of Kenya. Thank you very much, choir. But yeah, special request from somewhere within the auditorium, narudi nyumbani. As we are buying time to wait for the VIPs and the delegation to come down, let's, sorry? Yeah, someone is whispering here, they're enjoying the entertainment by the choir. They wish it would continue. But we're just giving them one number, and when they arrive, we'll just set off. Narudi nyumbani. Thank you very much, Kenya Maritime Authority Choir. You can now leave the stage. Thank you. It was really entertaining. Thank you very much. I hope you got enough lunch, because the work that you did today, yeah, it is work that is to be done for a whole week. Thank you very much. As I said, these are national champions in the music festivals. They have won several trophies and they have represented Mombasa County severally. So it is a group to reckon with. They can do any number that you want. They can do any language. Yeah, under the directorship of Mwalimu Isdori Onyango, I think has already left. Thank you so much, choir. So we are ready to start off. We have been given the green light. The DG and the other guests will join us as we proceed. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hand you over to the one and only Nuru Mohammed, who is going to take you through the afternoon session. A round of applause, please, for this beautiful lady. Karibu.
Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. Thank you. A round of applause for our MC of the morning session. Mr. Mkala has left very big shoes. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. I want to acknowledge the presence of the representation for the Principal Secretary for the State Department for Maritime Affairs, retired Major General Okongo, who was also our DG at some point. So he's very familiar with us. Karibu sana, it's a pleasure. I want to also ride on the protocol that has already been established. We want to recognize all our stakeholders and all our partners. You're very much welcome to Kenya Maritime Authority, and it's an honor to experience this lovely international celebration with you. So without further ado, we have panel discussions this afternoon. We have 2 panel discussions that were curated to be able to commemorate the theme of the day. And our first panel will not begin before we do a small presentation into the insight as to why it is important for us to discuss issues of green shipping. This particular context for this panel is going to be led by one of our partners who've done a careful study on how Kenya stands out to benefit from green shipping and being a pioneer in the region. It is important to note that we are going to discuss a report that will be launched today, and the report is to provide valuable insights into the prospects, challenges, and opportunities that lie ahead for Kenya. It highlights areas where our country can play a role in shaping the future of clean shipping, and also raises questions on what steps are needed Thank you. In my previous life, I was a journalist, so nothing goes wrong. We can proceed. Is that okay? Thank you. So as I was saying, the report will highlight areas where our country can play a role in shaping the future of clean shipping, and also raises questions on what steps are needed to prepare our ports, our policies, and our industries in this transition. I want to have the pleasure of inviting the presenter for this particular panel presentation. Her name is Miss Eleanor Criswell. Can we have her profile on the screen, please? Yes. Our lovely Miss Eleanor, she works for Global Maritime Forum. She is a senior project manager at GMF, a non-profit organization that focuses on accelerating maritime decarbonization, improving the human sustainability of the sector, and supporting public and private collaboration through the Getting to Zero Coalition. ELS, that's the short form of her name, focuses on the maritime low carbon transition, working closely with partners in sub-Saharan Africa African countries, and Latin America. And she's also a friend of the authority. Ms. Eleanor, please welcome to the stage. I think she deserves a bigger round of applause.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. I'm not sure how I can follow that incredible singing, but I'm going to try. So, yes, I'm Els. I'm a senior project manager at the Global Maritime Forum, and we are a not-for-profit organization, as it was said on the screen, and I work specifically on the low-carbon element of what we do. So I'm here to talk to you about this very exciting report that was launched today, and we've been working on this over the last year or so with the Kenya Maritime Authority, with GIZ's International Power to X Hub, as well as the International Maritime Organization's Green Voyage 2050 program, who some of you may have heard of and are working on the National Action Plan for Kenya. So, if we move on to the next slide, thank you. So we've actually launched 2 of these reports, perhaps confusingly, but that's with the intention of giving you a high-level overview of some of our key findings and insights, and that's the publication that you've got in paper, and then the full, more detailed report as well for those who are keen for a little bit more information, and that has all of the analysis that we conducted during the past year. So some of the questions that we really we're seeking to answer in this was around the technical, economic, regulatory, stakeholder elements that are all crucial for the development of e-fuels in Kenya. So if we move on to the next slide. These were our kind of 4 key questions that we went in with at the top there. So we really wanted to understand, what does the zero-emission shipping supply chain look like in Kenya at the moment? What is the potential for e-fuel production, focusing in particular on e-ammonia, e-methanol, and e-MGO, which is e-diesel? What are the benefits for Kenyans? You know, what does it look like in terms of job creation, maximizing those opportunities in the transition to e-fuels? And then lastly, we also conducted a route-based assessment to consider which green shipping corridors could be most viable for Kenya to develop with another trading nation internationally. We used a number of different methodologies to do this. I've had the pleasure of coming to Kenya 2 times already this year. We've had a workshop in Mombasa and in Nairobi, combined with desk research, a techno-economic assessment conducted by our academic partner, UMass, and then we've also delivered this route-based assessment, as I say, and I'll come on to a little bit more about that in a minute. So, and the next slide. And these are our key takeaways on the supply side. So I'm going to first delve into a little bit more on the supply side, and then we'll move to the demand side. So on the supply side, really exciting news, which is that we found that Kenya can produce e-fuels at globally competitive costs. So particularly e-ammonia, we found that it could be produced as low as $1,121 per ton. So just to give a bit of context to that, there was an auction last year held by H2 Global, and they secured e-ammonia from an organization called Fertiglobe at just over $900 per ton. So anything around the $1,000 per ton mark, we're considering as being globally competitive with other production locations. Perhaps unsurprisingly, we found that the most cost-effective combination of production characteristics was for it to be large-scale production, economies of scale really important, but also for it to be produced in Mombasa. So we factored in the grid strengthening costs that would be required to transfer the electrons from inland renewable sites, for example, in Turkana South was one of our production scenarios, to the port for the production of green hydrogen and then for the e-fuels themselves. We found that addressing key limiting factors was going to be important to improving further the cost competitiveness of the e-fuels. And, you know, we hear cost of capital a lot, but that is one of the elements that we found to be significant in impacting the cost of those fuels. And lastly, supply, really important, but also, of course, demand. For using these fuels in Kenyan ports and bunkering them, that's really contingent on stimulating demand and making sure that those producers can connect to viable off-takers. So this graphic is in the report that you have, if it's a little bit small. But on the left-hand side here, down the graph, we have all of those different production characteristic scenarios. So a combination of inland, port-based, different transport solutions. And the third up from the bottom there is the cheapest cost of e-ammonia. So that's the large-scale Mombasa-based hydrogen. But what's interesting about this graph, or perhaps a little bit scary, is the blue and green lines that go down vertically. And those are average 2024 low sulfur fuel oil prices in Rotterdam and Durban, so big bunkering hubs. And you can see that here that even the cheapest e-fuel is still 3 to 4 times as costly as the average LSFO price. And this isn't a Kenyan challenge, this is a universal challenge, and one that needs to be addressed through a range of policy and financial solutions. So if we come on to the next slide. So now moving on to the demand side, and there's a number of different ways that governments can stimulate demand, but one that we really zoomed in on in this project was green shipping corridors. So maybe a reminder for some of you, but an explainer for others. Green shipping corridors are public and private initiatives. So they bring together both governments and industry in one initiative, focusing their action to increase the use of zero-emission technologies, greener fuels, around a specific targeted route. So between Kenya and the Netherlands was one of them, for example. So it could be Mombasa to Rotterdam. If we move on. And these were our key takeaways. So I'll outline these in a second, but we did identify 6 routes in particular that we thought showed the greatest potential for Kenya to consider in setting up a green shipping corridor. And this was across a number of different commodities, including cut flowers, tea, and coffee, and mostly focusing container shipping, but we also considered one for vehicle carriers as well. One of the other key things that we found was aggregating demand is going to be essential if Kenya is to pursue a green corridor initiative. And that's because individual routes are often too small to really give that right demand signal for using these e-fuels. So we'll need to aggregate multiple export flows most likely. Now move on to the next slide. So how did we do it? I won't go into this in detail, but I thought it was interesting to share some of these considerations that we thought about in defining what that shortlisted route looks like. And we did this by using ship tracking data combined with stakeholder inputs and other trade analysis. So we have a couple of impact factors here, which really look at what the impact would be if we were to reduce emissions on that route, on global emissions. And then on the feasibility side, so how viable is it to set up that green corridor and for it to be a success? We looked at a number of different things. So are the governments on either side of the corridor engaging in developing e-fuel policy? Are their ports ready? How far away are they from being ready? Stakeholders, how willing are stakeholders in both countries to engage in an initiative? And that's a lot of the conversations that we've been having over the course of this year with Kenyan industry and government as well. And there's a lot of willingness there. So then if we move on to the next slide. This is where we came to with our long list. So as you can see down the left-hand side, a number of different shipping segments were considered: bulk, container shipping, and vehicle carriers, a number of different types of cargo. It's important to note here that the cut flower exports, some of you may be thinking, doesn't that go by air? And you're right. But there are lots of initiatives and impetus at the moment to really shift that to sea freight. So we would see that as being a really interesting prospect once those cut flowers were shifted to sea freight over air freight. There's a few key considerations here on the right-hand side that would perhaps challenge the development of any of those green corridors, and that helps us to bring us to a short list, which is on our next slide. So this is our short list of 6 routes. Again, this is in the paper document that you've got. But these are 6 routes that we felt like had a good confluence of those impact and feasibility factors that would provide the best opportunity for setting up a green corridor for Kenya. So cut flowers to the Netherlands, tea to Pakistan, horticultural tea to the UK, horticultural coffee to Germany, horticulture to France, or vehicle carrier to Asia. Great. And then just on my last couple of slides, I just wanted to note some of the work that we did on that question 3. And we found there to be a really compelling proposition around job creation, skills development, and diversification of economic opportunities. And there's also an element here around Kenya showing that regional and global leadership that we heard a lot about this morning. And then on to my last slide. So these are the recommendations, a lot there, but I won't go into them in detail. But the first 4 are policy recommendations, and the last 3 are a little bit more action-oriented. So creating a supportive policy environment, obviously incredibly crucial. Kenya's done a great job with the green hydrogen strategy, for example, but taking that further into e-fuels could be a really exciting prospect and really streamlining that policy environment. Facilitating financing, we know the cost gap is big. As I say, it's a universal challenge, but that will require efforts, with the private sector, for example, mobilizing international sources of climate funds to try and close that gap and cover the premium. There's also an important point here around the International Maritime Organization. Many of you may be aware that there's a big decision, a big vote coming up on how to implement the IMO's net zero framework. And there's a really exciting prospect over the next few years to see how revenues from that new system are going to be dispersed and how we can position Kenya to receive some of those funds from that process. International partnerships, that's a bit of a no-brainer. We see that as continuing to be really important. And then on the 3 action-oriented ones at the bottom here. So we heard time and again how much willingness there was to engage on the supply side in particular from Kenyan industry, really connecting that then to the supply side, to the maritime sector, should be something that could be considered a little bit further, in combination perhaps with the use of e-ammonia in fertilizer, for example. So there's a number of different opportunities there for Kenya to consider how to use these e-fuels in addition to the maritime sector. Consider the viability of a green shipping corridor, so bringing those 6 routes down into perhaps the most viable route that Kenya would like to pursue. And then thinking about the other ways to stimulate that demand. There's a few other ways that we outlined in the report, which could include using a book and claim system, which basically mobilizes voluntary demand to cover that green premium, and also setting up e-fuel pilots and demonstrators. We talked a lot about the opportunities around Lamu Port, in particular, perhaps being a space and an opportunity to develop those e-fuels into the future. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Eleanor. I wouldn't want you to leave, so please take a seat because you'll be part of our panel. What follows is we are going to introduce the members of the panel. And the moderator of this panel, I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Michael Mbaru. I'm spacing my words because he is my immediate boss, so I will start very slowly. I'm introducing Mr. Michael Mbaru. He is the Assistant Director, Marine Environment Protection in Kenya Maritime Authority. He is an ardent negotiator at the International Maritime Organization. I think he has attended more MEPC meetings than most of us. Michael Mbaru is also a lawyer, and nowadays we call him the Maritime Lawyer. Kindly, sir, please join me to the stage and give him a round of applause, please. Next, I want to also request the head of Africa, MTCC, Ms. Lydia Muthoni, to join us. While she makes her way to the stage, Lydia Ngugi has been engaged in shipping and maritime industry throughout her career. She is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. She has a bachelor's in law and an international maritime lawyer, and all those nice credentials that are attached to her name. Kindly give her another round of applause. Anyway, let's take a seat. I also would like to invite our next panelist, Mr. Kevin Mwangi from German Agency for International Cooperation. Good. So Kevin Mwangi is a senior energy advisor of the renewable energy and green hydrogen in GIZ. He is responsible for implementation of the green hydrogen and power-to-X activities in Kenya that focus on the analysis of the potential for PTS concepts in this country, building technical capacity of stakeholders, and supporting to build an enabling environment for private sector involvement in the green hydrogen ecosystem. Give him a round of applause. I would also like to invite Ms. Catherine Irura to the stage. Catherine is the chairperson for Green Hydrogen Association of Kenya. She's been leading efforts to enhance investment and policy support for the green hydrogen economy. She also serves as secretary of the Electricity Sector Association of Kenya and managing director of Sowitech Kenya Limited, which is developing an 8,000 green methanol project. Tons per annum, that's a lot. 8,000 tons per annum of green methanol project. It's wind and PV portfolio in Kenya, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Give her a round of applause. Last but not least, I have Mr. George Adwa. Kindly join me, sir. So Mr. George works for Maersk Shipping Line. He's a maritime operations specialist with over 31 years of experience at Maersk. Thank you. He currently serves as a terminal planning analyst, supporting the strategic planning and operational efficiency of Kenyan ports. He is based in Mombasa, and he brings deep industry knowledge and a strong track record in port operations, vessel scheduling, and terminal optimization. Give him a round of applause. So on to our team of panelists. I want to hand my microphone over to the moderator and give them some opportunity to unpack for us what this report actually means for Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nuru, our MC of the hour. And thank you so much for joining us in this important discussion on exploring Kenya's clean shipping fuel opportunity. And my panelists, thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this discussion. And yes, we have launched this report today in the morning with all the glamour and pomp and so forth. And as we celebrate the World Maritime Day under the theme Our Ocean, Our Obligation, Our Opportunity, this panel gives us a chance to connect those dots between Kenya's abundant renewable energy potential, our maritime sector, and the global shift towards zero carbon shipping. And I'd like to start with our set pesa, Eleanor. I don't know if I have correctly pronounced your name. And you've given us a good presentation and highlighting our potential towards e-fuels and so forth. So I'd like you to give us an overview just to enhance your presentation. What this report has for this country. What does it mean to Kenya? Over to you.
Hello. Hi. Yes, great question. I think, I touched on it a little bit at the end there around, I've heard a lot today. I don't work myself in the skills and training side of the equation in maritime, but I'm at conferences a lot where of course it's a really big topic of conversation, and the wider people in my organization do work on it. But I'm very compelled by some of the work that we did do with our national expert that worked with us on this project, Dr. Evan Marimi, and we looked into what that value proposition was for Kenyans. And I think given how much of the of a new supply chain this will be in terms of the production of renewable electrons, whether that's inland, and then moving those to the port for the production of green hydrogen and e-fuels, and then the use and bunkering of them in Kenyan ports. All along that there is a real value-added proposition, and I know Kenya's already positioning herself as at the forefront of some of those skills developments and changes. So I think that's a really exciting prospect from my perspective. I feel like I've spoken a lot, so I'm not going to say anything more.
All right. Thank you so much, Eleanor. Now to our development partners, and thank you for those insights and overview. I'll turn to Kevin. You work with the International Cooperation and Development Agency, GIZ, and in your role as a senior energy advisor in that agency, we've seen from the presentation that the cost of production, the cost of storage, and so forth is quite high. So what as international cooperation agency working with the development partners and financing aspects, what you are thinking about closing the cost gap for e-fuels, and especially in Kenya?
Thank you very much, Michael, for that question. And for green hydrogen, the most brought out challenge or area that needs to be tackled is the area of cost, specifically looking at the cost of renewable energies that account for approximately 50% of the total cost of green hydrogen, and therefore impacting the overall cost of any product that will be produced, especially for this case, marine fuels such as ammonia or even e-methanol. And therefore, for us to close this cost gap, there will be some measures that will be required. So, for example, we could see a lot of technology transfer and innovation that then comes to countries in the global south, such as Kenya, to ensure and to support, one, the reduced cost of electricity that then will have an impact on the final cost of the product. We also see international cooperation on supporting the provision of concessional finance and blended finance, looking at grants, for example, looking at cheap loans that then could substitute but only support us having technologies or development of projects that would have reduced cost, because then one of the challenges that affects also Kenyan projects will be the risks that are perceived by international investors concerning this country. And therefore, with such kind of risks that are perceived, I say again perceived, then we would find cheap grants or even concessional loans could bring down this risk, or also even provision of risk guarantees by government in order to ensure that it attracts, or we attract, international financing or investments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And audience, remember that you'll have an opportunity to ask questions at the end of this session. So kindly, if you have a question, you put it down and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. And thank you so much, Kevin. Of course, finance and international cooperation will be critical in this aspect. But also we acknowledge that private sector must play their role in scaling up this opportunity. So Madam Catherine, as a chair of the Green Hydrogen Association of Kenya, could you share how local industry is preparing itself to seize the hydrogen and e-fuel opportunity, and what support is most urgently needed to mobilize private sector players?
Okay, thank you. I would like to start with a story that Wangari Maathai used to say a lot about a hummingbird. There was a fire in the forest, and all these animals were standing and watching the fire evolve. But there was this small bird that kept on picking drops of water from the river and taking it to the fire to put out the fire. And like that hummingbird, I would say confidently that the private sector is laying the foundation for the green hydrogen economy. We are really evolving from typical renewable energy development to this green fuel space, because we have seen there's a market, there's demand globally. There are indications from the IMO, for example, concerning these mandates on maritime fuels. And this is enabling the market to react in this way. When we first entered into green hydrogen in Kenya's, the company I represent, Soitec, we were looking at domestic production of green methanol. 8,000 tons per annum was what we were looking at. But as we were talking to our investors and markets outside of Kenya, like Germany and the EU, we realized there's a huge demand in terms of maritime, and they're willing to pay that premium beyond the local costs, which we can achieve here at 877 tons per annum. There we could even producing at a price of 7 cents in terms of geothermal baseload, which could be roughly a price of $1,200 USD per ton. We are getting indications that there are maritime off-takers who are willing to pay that price. So we see our market evolving outside of Kenya beyond the domestic market. And this is also helping us to scale up our project beyond 12 megawatts to even 20 or potentially 80 megawatts based on the demand that's out there. Beyond e-methanol, there are also other companies that are developing e-ammonia projects here in Kenya. They're all in early stage development. There's one by Tana Viridis that's looking at 2 gigawatt electrolysis capacity. There's a Dongo Kungu project here also looking at 12 megawatt. And other projects as well around Lamu looking at 200 megawatt electrolysis capacity. You can say they are dropped in the ocean compared to maybe what Maersk could need for one fleet in a year. They would need maybe 35,000 tons. But I think this fast phase, beginning this first demonstration projects will be a huge signaler to the other developers in the field that the market is really ready, and investors will be more willing to invest in this market when we see more demonstration plants being built. So I think we're on a good head start getting there, doing something about creating this green hydrogen economy in Kenya.
Thank you so much, Madam Catherine. Lydia, now to you. You work with MTCC Africa. You do a lot of capacity building and technical cooperation activities within Africa, and also pilot project demonstration in Africa. So from where you sit as head of MTCC, what capacity building initiatives or pilot projects demonstration that are needed within Africa to ensure that we prepare ourselves for these e-fuels? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael, for the question. And as MTCC Africa, we must appreciate the support that we receive from industry. Allow me to pass my appreciation to the Kenya Maritime Authority. Happy to have the presence of the Director General. The MTCC Africa is a consortium membership project within the University of Jomo Kenyatta Agriculture and Technology in Juja, but we have an office in Mombasa. And part of the consortium members, we have the Kenya Maritime Authority. We have experts from the Kenya Maritime Authority who support the pilot projects at the MTCC and as well the Kenya Ports Authority. So in that doing, you can see the connection between industry and academia. And much as the project is situated in Kenya, we are mandated and considered to support the entire Africa region, working closely with the state departments of maritime and as well the relevant ports and maritime associations and as well as the port associations. As I narrow down to the question that you have asked as to how the MTCC can support the pilot projects related to e-fuel, it is important to appreciate the report that has been launched today because this is a stepping stone for Kenya. Allow me to take Kenya as a case study. And looking at this from this perspective, I note that the Kenya Maritime Authority has been working closely with the Green Voyage project, where we have a national action plan probably completed and is looking to being implemented. And in this sense, this can be linked to feasibility studies that have been identified in the report. I was having a look at it when it was circulated online, and we note that it will be important to as well have the public-private partnerships, seeing how this can draw as well influence from the international financial institutions, because this will lead to having the gap analysis, where you identify the gaps that are there, what are the barriers, and how can this be coined into a project that will be, at the end of the day, looking at the baseline and moving forward to see how the baselines would be supported and as well close the gap. The gap can be a technical gap and as well it can be a policy gap. And in this sense, that is why it is important to have the tripartite of policy from the public sector and as well private sector engagements. And this links to the economic side, where we have the drivers who bring in the financial investments, for example, from the African Development Bank. So this can be a perfect case study for Kenya as to how a pilot project can emanate from aspects that have been identified in the report to see how best this can be, at the end of the day, of benefit for international global trade in Kenya, for revenue generation to the government, and as well bringing on board jobs in the supply chain in the maritime industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lydia, for those insights. Now I want to go to my friend from Maersk. The ships and ship owner are expected to, create a demand so that then they give an incentive for the e-fuel producers to, continue producing these fuels in a scale that, can, of course, see this business case for them to continue producing these fuels. And as a ship owner, you are seen as one of the biggest off-takers of these e-fuels. So, Maersk, I would like to know from you, what are the initiatives that the ship owners are taking to make sure that they catalyze that incentive for producing these e-fuels? They stimulate that demand for the investors to invest in this production of e-fuels, and also to the port side. What port infrastructure do you foresee that will be needed for you as a ship owner to take your ship to a port that can supply you with these fuels? Over to you, sir.
Thank you. It's important that to also know that in Kenya we are also starting to produce this e-fuel, which I think it's not in much demand, not in much supply around the world. So, like for Maersk, we are only getting this from, I think, 3 ports. That's one in Asia, one in the Middle East, and one in Europe. So, for as a line to know that we are also having this, then we need stakeholder cooperation that is not just from the private sector. We need the government and also the relevant ministries to partner with for us to be able to also support this initiative. For the ports, it will take the lines to identify which specific ports that they can get this kind of supply. Because in case of an emergency or a reroute of the vessel when in the voyage, and they have to identify which specific areas they'll be able to get the supply or any of these kind of fuels. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, back to Eleanor. The report highlights the potential of green shipping corridors. So I'd like to know what would be the most practical first step Kenya should take to turn one of these corridors into a reality? Probably maybe before 2030, but we know that 2030 is pretty very close.
Hello. Yes, great question. And I think this, it's worth saying that there's about 65 plus, if not more than that, green corridor initiatives around the globe now, just maritime ones. I'm also aware there's obviously land-based green corridors as well. That's a huge amount. And a lot of them go through these kind of pre-feasibility stage, maybe reach feasibility stage, and then reach a very big commercial gap. And that's, a lot of these challenges, technical, regulatory, stakeholder challenges that come up around the use of e-fuels, and because they're still in their infancy stages. And so that's why these green corridor initiatives are really first mover initiatives. They're about the governments and industry stakeholders that want to be first movers and are ready to take on those early risks. But to get to that point where who is willing to do that and in what way, around which fuel, whether it's methanol, whether it's ammonia, you really need to kind of understand your industry stakeholder landscape. And I think the Kenya Green Hydrogen Association, for example, is a great example of how stakeholders can come together. And I think maybe developing that type of dialogue beyond that to connect in maritime stakeholders with fuel producers, overcoming that classic chicken and egg problem would be a great way for Kenya to move quite quickly and see if a green corridor would be viable. Yeah, that would be the main thing. Lots of things.
Thank you so much. On the same breath, Kevin, you've worked with a lot of other countries on this respect. And we want to see how Kenya can quickly learn from those countries to, step up and be one of those first movers in terms of producing these e-fuels. So what lessons can Kenya take from other countries so that we can at least even, maybe if not go past them, then be very close to them, so that we can, as a country, be a bunkering hub, can be that one of the countries that produces these fuels in large scales, so that then we can stimulate maritime economic growth within our country. So what are those lessons from other countries that we can take, and perhaps both successful and lessons that you would advise Kenya not to take? Over to you, Kevin.
Thank you very much for that one. So first of all, we need to also appreciate that Kenya has really done a lot. So when we are comparing, and this I compare with the Global South kind of initiatives, that is countries in the developing world. So we have done a lot. But then, as you said again, there are things that we could borrow from other countries for us to develop. And some of them, we also see them highlighted in the Green Hydrogen Strategy and Roadmap as the building blocks. Therefore, we could say an example would be, number one, we need to make sure that when these projects are being developed, that we carry everyone from the start. If we look today here, we have a mix from public sector, private sector, academia. We see even in the maritime ecosystem, we have communities living in these ecosystems. We see beach management units, we see civil society. And for us to accelerate is to make sure that everyone is on board. we've seen projects that are started and they did not have good community engagement and stakeholder participation, falling through the cracks. And the reason is not everyone was on board. We need social capital for these projects. And the only reason we can have social capital is when we show the benefits, not CSR, benefits that communities can get. So, for example, so that when Catherine and Sowitek are doing a project in the area of Mombasa or Lamu, then the communities around these areas who provide, probably their land is provided, or some of the resources that they could have used will be taken to these projects, they feel the tangible benefits. And so when this is done from the initial stage, and here we are talking about a just energy transition, then it will help accelerate these kind of projects in Kenya, because everyone will be on board at the first go. The second one will be, we have to, and I like this because then I will use a marine term, we will have to have catalytic lighthouse projects. So we need, because it's also innovative, it's also new. And with every new thing, everybody wants to see who will be the first one to start so that we can learn from them. And in that case, then we need to support catalytic projects. We see countries like Namibia looking at the Hyphen project, so as a catalytic project, that then they will learn from it. And for us as a country, we need to also go this way probably and have either catalytic projects in sectors that have been identified in the green hydrogen strategy, for example, in maritime, in aviation, and in fertilizer, and say, let's push or support a project. And here then it calls also for government support, and see and learn through not only the project development, but also operations of the project towards also seeing how it prospers through the cost. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You said social capital, not CSR. And you've also mentioned catalytic lighthouse projects, quite a maritime term. I know you are also being converted to a maritime professional. So he's talked about, community engagement and social capital. From the private sector perspective, you've mentioned a lot of flagship projects that are happening in Kenya on hydrogen production. But what are the current barriers, especially for local industry players that they face in e-fuel production, and how can policy better support them?
Okay, the first one was actually mentioned by Kevin, the cost. We are really competing against fossil fuels, which are almost 4 times the price of green fuels. And we've had to be very creative around this. Eleanor gave a picture of how we are trying to approach it as producers, looking at premium markets where people want to buy green tea, green horticulture, green coffee, where they're willing to pay that premium. There's some small-scale projects that are looking at that, developing maybe 100 tons per annum per year of ammonia, and they're looking at the whole life cycle of that flower from farm to when it gets to someone in Germany having a cup of tea. So for those markets, it's a niche market, and this is one of the approaches private sector is looking at. But there are those who are also looking at actually exporting the fuel. And we've talked about that chicken and egg scenario. We have to start at a scale where you have an off-taker who can take up your project. So I think one of the things we need to do as private sector is sit down and look at our projects, aggregate that demand on methanol and e-ammonia, and come and talk to you as Maritime Authority and Ports Authority and see what infrastructure needs to be designed around this. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to develop a product and then be stranded on how to move it out of the country, not aligning with the standards in the off-taker market, like the EU RED directives, for example, which are very specific on these fuels, the CO2 threshold they should meet. So we really need to sit together and make sure as we are developing our projects, we are talking to each other, we are fundraising together, we are designing infrastructure around ports for volumes which can actually be off-taken. And we can also identify these catalytic projects which can go to ready to build by 2028. There are a few, but we can start with those ones. So the last thing I'd like to mention is, the regulatory framework is fundamentally changing. She talked about the IMO mandates that are coming up, and ship owners build assets that will last them 20 to 30 years. So there will be a future cost, a future penalty, and they have to prepare for this. So we do have this portfolio of projects. We need to de-risk as private sector, but we also need to work with off-takers like Maersk and other vessel owners to see how we can match this demand and the off-take. And since they're already having this futuristic view and there's a framework being implemented by 2028, we are hoping it becomes mandatory. We can create value, business out of this, matching offtake and the demand for the fuel which we are producing. So I think I talked about cost majorly, but also aligning our plans, infrastructure, fundraising for these projects to make them feasible, working together with the various authorities to make sure we are in sync in terms of what we're producing and the capacity at the ports and moving product to customers.
Thank you so much, Madam Catherine. I've noticed the two of them haven't talked about expertise in terms of technical expertise. Lydia, you've worked with lots of capacity building initiatives in Africa. Do you think technical expertise in especially Africa is an issue? And if yes, do you think that there's need for building that capacity, creating that technical expertise? I've read reports saying that this transition could potentially be creating a level playing field for many countries, especially because it's a new technology, it's new technologies, new fuels, and therefore an area where people can go in and train and be skilled in working in this sector. Do you think that that's a potential area of employing our youths, reskilling our youths, upskilling our youths so that they can take advantage of this energy transition? Over to you, Lydia.
Thank you, Michael. That's a well-packed question, and I will try my best to look at it from a very objective perspective, taking note that almost 70 or 80, if not 90% of governments in the Africa region that have ports, the ports are government-owned. And as we speak, each country does generate revenue from the government. For this to happen, it does mean that there is technical skill set within their respective ports. From the experience that we have seen working with the region, we note that governments are taking a further step towards creating internal training of their respective staff, especially in terms of the green transition. And I'm happy to note that even for Kenya, there is internal training with support from development partners. For example, the Danish embassy when it comes to the decarbonization of training of the experts. What I can mirror or what I can echo too is that there needs to be a training of trainers in the sense that it will upskill the level of capacity that is already within the relevant ports and as well as the Maritime Authority. And again, it will also need to be, as highlighted by Catherine and Kevin, we need to have systematic stakeholder engagement, because at the end of the day, when it comes to the maritime trade, it has to be a whole of government approach with a lot of teamwork to ensure that we do meet the needs that are required within the international conventions that have now been ratified and domesticated into the relevant maritime administrations and jurisdictions as well. So as I end my point, I would put emphasis that the governments in the Africa region do have experts, and we should be moving forward towards the training of trainers of their respective experts, and very important to borrow the North-South cooperation and upskill, and as well with the seafarers that we are having in the industry, because they will be the ones working in the operations of the vessel to see how best the e-fuel will be in support of the international trade. So training of trainers and having a very close collaborative North-South cooperation that I believe is currently ongoing, and there needs to be more of a capacity building step that may need to have some parameters in it in terms of yearly term goals, so that you can see how far you have progressed and what you need to do more in order to be competitive in the region. Because at the end of the day, we are looking into a global maritime trade that is heavily regulated, but at the same time, it does need to produce the shipping results in terms of revenue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The MC has passed a paper secretly to me, and I will like to lay that open to the audience that we are short of time. So unfortunately, also, we won't be taking questions at this point. I'm informed that we can take questions after the second panel. So please keep your questions ready until after the second panel. So for that, thank you all. Okay, one of my panelists here has a burning point. 1 minute, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As highlighted earlier, I illustrated that we have the Maritime Technology Cooperation Center for Africa, and it is an organization that is looking towards building capacity for climate change mitigation in the shipping and maritime industry. We are keen to bridge the gap between industry, academia, and as well the private sector. So as it is, feel free to contact MTCC Africa, because we do have a number of online training programs that will be of benefit to individuals who are looking towards moving in the maritime industry. I must highlight that we are funded by the International Maritime Organization and as well with industry partners. And we get a lot of support from the government through the ministry and the State Department that supports Kenya Maritime as well. And we look forward to as well bringing the sustainable development forward, especially with seafarers. So if there are students present in this gathering, I'll request you, let's have a word at the end of the forum so that we can see how best to build capacity. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So for that, I want to thank you all the panelists. I'm sorry I won't give you a last minute to give you a burning insight, but I'm really grateful for agreeing to this panel and for the insightful knowledge that you have and opinions that you've shared. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We give them an amazing round of applause while they make their way from the stage. We can have one photo, please, George, join the team. This was an amazing scientific panel with very nicely represented gender balance. And the ladies have done amazingly well. Give them a clap. Thank you so much. We'll be reaching out. And if you see them, I've seen some students here. Eh? This is the time you make networks. Where's the Jua? Thank you so much. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, and team. Yes, so I want to take this opportunity to introduce our next item of discussion. We are lucky to have the DG Kenya Maritime with us this afternoon. DG, we've been told there is a lot of money somewhere in green shipping, and GIZ is in the room, and they know where we can get the money. So kindly, let's do something about it. So today's panel, this afternoon panel, is going to discuss a topic called Bridging the Gap Between Maritime Education and Training and the Shipping Industry. It focuses on an issue at the heart of Kenya's maritime growth. Kenya has made immense strides in developing the maritime education institutions and training programs. Yet, we still have challenges remaining in ensuring that these skills and competencies of our graduates match the dynamic needs of the shipping industry. From evolving technologies and decarbonization demands to safety, digitalization, and global competitiveness, the industry requires a workforce that is not only well-trained, but also adaptable and future-ready. This discussion brings together key stakeholders to reflect on how we can close this gap through stronger collaboration between training institutions and industry players, curriculum alignment, internship and apprenticeship opportunities, and policy support that ensures Kenya produces seafarers and maritime professionals who are globally competitive. I now invite our panel to share their perspectives on how Kenya can strengthen this bridge between education and industry for a sustainable maritime future. So let me take this humbling opportunity to invite our moderator. Our moderator is Ms. Josephine Ndia. Kindly project her bio. Josephine. Thank you. Ms. Josephine is also our Assistant Director for Maritime Labor here at Kenya Maritime Authority. She has over 17 years of experience in maritime administration and policy. As the first African female auditor under the IMO Member State Audit Scheme, she advocates for global maritime standards and sustainable ocean governance. She is committed to mentoring emerging professionals in the blue economy and promotes safety, sustainability, and innovation. Josephine also serves as chief editor of the Journal of the Association of Maritime Practitioners in Kenya and is a published author of several peer-reviewed works on maritime and blue economy topics. Her professional affiliations are: she is a member of the International Maritime Lecturers Association. She's an associate fellow for Maritime Practitioners of Kenya. She's a member of Women in Maritime Sector in Eastern and Southern Africa, and she's also a speaker in the IMO WISTA Maritime Speakers Bureau. Kindly give her a good round of applause. The panelists that will be accompanying Josephine, we have one Mr. Martin Mulwa from Kenya Coast National Polytechnic. So Mr. Martin holds a Master's of Engineering in Design and Construction of Naval Architecture and Ocean Structures. He is a maritime expert at Kenya Coast National Polytechnic for over 8 years. Give him a round of applause. I would also be honored to invite to the podium Captain Elizabeth Marami from the Association of Maritime Practitioners in Kenya. Huyu ni mtoto wa nyumbani. Mpigieni makofi. Kindly put her bio on the... technology. How many Gen Zs are in the room? Just asking. Gen Zs, we are here. I'm an alumni, so don't worry, just raise your hand. Ah, good. Okay, so Captain Elizabeth Wakesho Marami, she is a senior marine pilot at Kenya Ports Authority and the first female marine pilot and master mariner in East and Central Africa. With over a decade of international seagoing experience, she serves as Chief Officer, Navigation with Royal Caribbean Group, leading energy efficiency projects aligned with IMO 2050 goals. She's passionate about green shipping, sustainable port operations, and gender inclusion, and is the founder of Against the Tide Foundation, which champions women seafarers. Give her a clap. Next, I'll call Mr. Edison Mrengi from Bandari Maritime Academy. Thank you. So Edison Mrengi is a senior logistics manager with over 10 years of experience in maritime transport, shipping, port operations, and logistics. He is a senior lecturer at Bandari Maritime and holds a master's in logistics and supply chain management. Edison is also affiliated with the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport and the Kenya Institute of Supplies Management. Give him a round of applause. I'd be calling upon Naima Isa Ahmed from Women in the Maritime Sector of Eastern and Southern Africa. Do we have her bio? Naima Isa. So Naima Isa holds a master's in marine engineering, green ship technology, and marine convergence with a strong focus on sustainable maritime solutions. Her experience includes research on alternative marine fuels at Kenya Maritime and Ocean University and shipboard training as an engine cadet on MV Amu-1. She is passionate about advancing decarbonization in shipping through eco-friendly, energy-efficient technologies. Give her a round of applause. And finally, I'd like to invite Joshua Odwar from Germany Agency for International Cooperation. Kindly join us to the panel, Joshua. Unfortunately, we didn't get you. Thank you so much. Give them a round of applause. They only have 40 minutes to do their deliberation. We are going to give them as much support as possible, and all the best.
Thank you, Program Director. Good afternoon, everyone, distinguished delegates, panelists, colleagues, DG, all protocols observed. As the shipping world undergoes a profound transformation driven by decarbonization, digitalization, and automation, our seafarers must be equipped not just with traditional competencies, but with future-ready skills. The question before us is not whether change is coming, but whether our training systems are agile enough to meet it. Today's panel discussion is about bridging the gap between classrooms and vessels, between policy and practice, and between aspiration and implementation. We will hear from our experts across the industry, academia, development partners, and including the vital role played by our industry, especially the shipping industry, in supporting Kenya's MET and its evolution. Their contributions in decarbonization training, curriculum reform, industry-academia collaboration, which help to shape the maritime workforce that is not only competitive, but competent. Ladies and gentlemen, let us use this session to challenge assumptions, share innovations, and forge partnerships that ensure our maritime education and training system is not just reactive, but resilient and visionary. I invite you all panelists to share your insights and encourage all participants to engage interactively. Together, we can chart a course forward for a maritime future that is green, digital, and inclusive. I thank you, and let's begin. All right, karibuni sana. And my first question will go to Ms. Naima, who is, I believe, the youngest, our Gen Z in the panel. Ms. Naima, just to break the ice, what was your first experience with sea or the shipping industry? In a nutshell, in a sentence also.
Good afternoon. Sorry, I'm just getting used to these panel discussions. My first experience was on board as an engine cadet for 1 year and 1 month. It was not hard to secure the position. I think I'm among the lucky people because immediately I graduated, I just got an onboard ship cadetship for 1 year, 1 month. Yeah, it wasn't a hard thing for me personally. But still, there is a need because a lot of, even my classmates, other people I know from back then have surrendered their career at sea because of lack of training. Yeah.
Thank you, Naima. Just a follow-up with you.
Yes.
The lack of a dedicated national training vessel, in your opinion, is a significant hurdle for Kenyan cadets seeking mandatory sea time. What practical, short-term to medium-term solutions can be collaboratively developed by the government, industry, and academia to solve this critical issue to encourage sea service for Kenyan cadets?
Okay, we look at this situation because Kenya is a middle-income country. Because our long-term, yes, we need to have a training ship, a national training ship. But in the meantime, we don't have a national training ship and we can't sit back. So from my perspectives, I think the first thing, it's in progress, yes, but still we need to foster it and consistency in collaborations in MOUs as a government first. Because we had the CMS, CGM, taking only 5 cadets for the first sea time. Looking at that, we have almost 100 cadets every year, more than 100 from all the institutions. So I think consistency in that and also increasing numbers. We need to have maybe MSC because they are always operating at our ocean. I think the second thing, we need also to collaborate in maritime institutions. We don't need to fight for just one institution. Look at the case we have when we present our idea in the international level, we go as a group. So first we need to collaborate, then present our ideas. Remember, we are competing with other cadets all over the world. And the position there highly depends not on a personal initiative, but as a group. So we need these institutions first, which offer marine engineering or the nautical department to collaborate and also include cadetship exchange programs. We have the global cadetship forums. We need Kenya to be represented. Therefore, I highly engage mostly collaboration. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Naima. A clap for Naima. She's articulated that question like a pro, who she is. Thank you very much, Naima. Our next question is going to be on innovative pedagogies, and we have Mr. Mulwa to my left. I'll be linking what Naima has said in terms of technology development and saying that with the rapid technological developments and advancements, traditional teaching methods may not suffice. What innovation, solutions, or pedagogies do you believe Kenyan MET, or the institutions thereof, should adapt to ensure Kenyan METs produce agile, tech-savvy, and globally competitive and market-ready seafarers? Thank you.
Yeah, you absolutely right, Madam Josephine. We need to evolve from chalk to talk kind of training to practical-based training. Now, in maritime education and training, per se, especially in this era, the issue of maritime simulators is key in training. We all agree that these kind of simulators are very expensive. And as my panelists have said, the MET training institution need to partner. The current institutions offering maritime courses, if not all, have a simulator. But we need, as a maritime training institution, to adopt high fidelity simulation in terms of training, and will not only focus on isolated cases, that is, for example, on navigation or on the engine room. But we need to come up with an integrated system which creates a scenario both for the bridge and the engineering, the engine teams. We also need to have blended learning models using platforms which will reduce the time used in theoretical sessions, so that most of the time can be transferred now to the practical sessions. Another thing we need to do as a training institution, which are key in churning out seafarers who can compete globally and with the best international practice. We can also look at the virtual reality, which is key and can also be used, especially when we want to give the cadets or the trainees familiarization with aspects like different types of ships, and also when we are training, especially in dangerous tasks, especially entry into enclosed spaces.
Thank you very much, Mulwa, for that articulation on the issue of simulators. I'm sure everyone who has engaged in terms of seafarer training, you have noted that the country is gearing towards partnerships to develop our simulator abilities, including last week we had the IMO here conducting a simulator training workshop for our instructors. So taking up from there, I would like to pick from where the last panel left on green shipping and decarbonization. And in the midst of our panelists, we have one panelist who is passionate about green shipping and decarbonization, and she's at the same time a maritime practitioner who is a deck officer, and actually now a master mariner, if I'm not wrong. So Captain Elizabeth, I would like to ask a question in terms of the green shipping and decarbonization and how it links to maritime education and training. So as global shipping industry accelerates its transition towards decarbonization and green technologies, how can Kenya's maritime education and training and its curricula be future-proofed to ensure that our seafarers are equipped with the competencies to operate and manage future fuels, energy-efficient vessels, and emerging digital transitions? Karibu, Captain.
Thank you, Josephine. First of all, I will just start by saying a hearty congratulations to Naima for what she's achieved. Every time I see a female seafarer, I know how hard it is. So I'm very proud to be sat in the same panel with her. And also, secondly, I'm also representing Kenya Ports Authority, sent here by my boss. And to get to the question that has been asked today, you have talked about, I'll work backwards with your question. You've talked about the future, but I don't think we need to be talking about the future because it's already here. Green shipping is already here. And I speak this out of experience of having been last year sitting for 2 weeks to quickly change a vessel that was known to be of high technology, but to pull out a cabin from a passenger vessel and put in cold ironing. And I had to stand there day and night so that we can be able to install this because we were going to reposition and go to Istanbul where we are just going to use shore power. And so when I look at that, and then thereafter, we had to go through classes because now the vessels that they were building henceforth were going to be LNG-powered cruise ships. And so we had to go through several days and weeks of continuous training to just get there in terms of safety. So the maritime education training of Kenya needs to go back to the drawing board and phase out the idea of traditional fuels. Otherwise, moving forward, we've already lost our place in that position because the shipping companies have not committed to 2050. They have committed to 2030, and they're already gearing towards that. And if I could say, if you're following the UN General Assembly, the UNGA that's going on, they talked about how gender equality has lagged behind in the 2030 projections that were meant to be there. When people set their goals to 2030, they thought it was very far on. It's the same thing. We are sitting here thinking about 2050. 2050 is going to be among us very quickly. And where will we be as Kenya? Are we just going to wake up and start scrambling around to set up systems in terms of safety, STCWs, so that we can be able to train? So the maritime education training needs to adopt safety requirements trainings towards this incoming clean fuels that are coming up. We also need to partner with shipping companies that are moving towards clean fuels. Let us know what is it that we need to train our cadets, because a cadet can be fully qualified but then does not have clean energy certification in terms of safety, and they cannot be taken, but that's a company policy that they have to follow. So we need to partner with them. And lastly, I will always die on this hill of innovation. We need to move towards innovation and technology. We need to move away from tradition, simulation. I learned how to ship handling by breaking a couple of pixels in a simulator. So that's the only place you can actually simulate what we are talking about and understand it in terms of what the future is for Kenya. And I feel like Kenya has so much potential to become a regional hub if we act now. So it's not about the future. I believe the time is now.
Wow, excellent. Let's give Elizabeth a clap. And actually, from today's discussion since morning, we have been discussing feasibility reports on e-production in Kenya. And this resonates very well to the subject of MET. Listening to Elizabeth, I was saying this World Maritime Day celebration here at KMA was meant for the seafarers and the MET, because you cannot operate the e-fuel ships without the seafarers. So reskilling of our seafarers is key. Kenya, always we've been a leader in many ways, and this is one of the ways we can leverage with our neighborhood, that we can be the center of excellence for e-fuels, for maritime education training, whereby it fits into this current. Elizabeth says it's not the future, it is the current. So therefore, this is opportune. Maybe before I move to Elizabeth, I would like to say that KPA has actually done a lot of cold ironing preparations, I think since 2019. So Kenya actually is a premier country. We are always ahead. Maybe we can clap for ourselves. Thank you very much. Kenya, we are always ahead. While other people are thinking about shore power supply, Kenya was ahead. I can speak from MTCC Africa and our colleagues who are sitting here in the previous panel. We have been leading in Africa by speaking about alternative fuels, by speaking about shore power supply, and even giving technical assistance to other countries in Africa. Thank you. Now I move to the next panelist, who is also in our area of MET, which is transport and logistics, Edison. And your question is, given that maritime transport is a backbone of global commerce, how can training institutions and the industry stakeholders collaborate more effectively to bridge the gap between academia, learning in the maritime transport logistics, and practical demands of the industry to ensure safe and efficient operations in ports? Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine, for that question. I think that question is long overdue. At this time, we should not be discussing about how to bridge the gap between training and the industry. At this rate, we should be discussing about the increase of absorption rate in the industry, increasing the numbers of the industries and whatever. Having said that, it's important that we have collaboration, and for us to reduce the gap, there has to be collaboration between the industry and the training institution. And how possible is that? It's only possible when the industry come together with the training institution for them to develop a curriculum. Whatever should be training, or the people that were producing, rather the students, should match the needs of the industry. They should match the standard requirements of the industry. And therefore, it is very important that the industry come together with the training institution, develop a suitable curriculum, starting with the OS, the training needs assessment and whatever, so that they come, when they develop the curriculum, it matches the industry standards. So that now we can increase the absorption rate, so that whatever we're producing from the class now can be absorbed in the industry, because we'll be producing for the industry. That's number one. Number two, the industry needs to provide a platform for placement, that is internship. They should also provide a platform for cadetship and such like things, so that the students from the class are able to go to the field and get hands-on experience from the class to the field, so that now they are aware of what is happening in the industry, and they get the knowledge and the experience that is required of them. Number three, there has to be a joint research. Come up with the topic, do a research, both the students and the industry come together. Like if you're doing e-fuel, for instance, then the students should also be incorporated with the industry, so that at the end of the day, we have producing students that are aware, they have a vast knowledge of the industry. The other point is, probably we need to capacity build our trainers through what we call continuous professional development. Logistics is a dynamic industry where every day we have new things evolving. And therefore, if we don't capacity build our trainers, then soon we'll be obsolete. That is, we'll be training things that are not relevant to the industry and not relevant to the international standards. And therefore, we need to have trainers going for refresher courses, trainers going for seminars, trainers keeping abreast of the latest technology and the industry. The other thing is mentorship. If we can have the students being mentored by the industry experts, can also close the gap between the training and the industry. Thank you so much.
Well said, Edison. Picking from your points, one that struck me is working with the industry to develop a curricula that is suitable for the industry. Now, maybe to mention, because this is an opportunity where we are all together, the industry, the academia, as well as the training institutions. This year, last financial year, KMA with the industry, that is a sector skills advisory committee that consists of all areas of competencies, developed 8 occupational standards. That is on marine engineering, electrotechnical engineering, nautical science, on the levels of certificate, level 4, 5, as well as level 6 at the diploma. These occupational standards were not developed by KMA, but alone, but if you are an electrotechnical officer, you develop the occupational standards from the OS all the way to curricula, to the occupational standards. For if you're a marine engineer, you develop the occupational standards related to your area. And if you're a nautical officer, again, you develop the occupational standards in your area. And why was this done? To ensure that the developed documents or the standards are fit for the standard. Because you cannot develop what you don't know when you're dealing with competency-based curriculum. This is to help the country to produce officers and ratings that are suitable for the market. And when they go out there on board the ships, they are able to perform what they are required to do. So as KMA, we are encouraged, we will continue engaging the industry, even in the logistics area, which you've mentioned, which you've very well articulated. And we'll also engage the industry in that aspect. And now I go to the next partner, that is our industry partner, the GIZ, Joshua. Welcome to the panel. Listening to our panelists today, development partners have a key role in bridging the gap between maritime education and training and the shipping industry. We have heard from the previous panelists that you have engaged in several areas. Kindly highlight on the areas that GIZ has contributed to the Kenyan MET. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I'll start very sequentially so that I can at least show the journey from where we started. I'll skip some bits, but I'll just mention the key highlights. So in 2023, President William Ruto, together with other dignitaries from the EU, launched the green hydrogen strategy. So for us, this is the building block of all these discussions on alternative fuels, which were mentioned in that document. So this is what we refer to in this moment. In this green hydrogen strategies, there's like 8 building blocks, and one of the key building blocks is capacity and skills development, so that we can actually catalyze this industry going forward. Building on that, I'll just now go into what we have supported as GIZ in these topics. So number one, we started with a capacity needs assessment and a human capacity development strategy. This is basically a strategy that highlights the technical and managerial skills and competencies that we want our students and industry professionals to have. It then led to other activities because it had different timeline approaches to achieve the key objectives. As part of the capacity needs assessment, one of the key things was to see how we can involve the TVET sector by doing upskilling, reskilling, and retooling of industry professionals, but also developing the development of curriculum. I'll now break into 2 parts here. So one, I look at the industry professional side where we train people, and on the other side, I look at TVET curriculum development. Over the past year, through GIZ, we have worked in 4 main building blocks, which is capacity development, policy and governance, business and market development, and also the issues of just transition. And at the capacity development sphere, we have in the last 7 months, we have been in a scenario where we are trying to get a pool of trainers from the different institutions and TVET, both TVET and also university level trainers. And I'm happy to say that even the Coast National Polytechnic, Kenya National Coast Polytechnic, is part of these 40 people who are at least now undergoing a rigorous exchange, set by GIZ in terms of building their capacity in these new emerging technologies. So these 40 people are going through a 3-cycle training. So they first start by the basics and the fundamentals of green hydrogen to just understand what is this green hydrogen and how and what role could it play in Kenya and globally. And then we had this industry exchange plus a sector-specific training where these 40 people went to Germany to just understand from developed countries like Germany and see what they're doing in terms of skills, adapting these skills into their curriculums. And then for now, the next steps, currently we are doing a sector-specific training here in Mombasa again, and that's why we are also a very huge team here, for these 40 people to actually now go into sector-specific trainings. By sector-specific, I mean we have 3 value chains that we are looking at. So the first one is e-fertilizers. The second one is e-fuels, where we are also looking at maritime sector very specifically. And also we are looking at green steel. So those are just some of the key value chains. As also part of these activities, we are trying to Kenyanize our content so that we develop curriculum or training modules that are aligned to the national context of Kenya. That is on the TOTs, training the trainer side. Now I'll just jump back into the TVET curriculum development. So we're also currently supporting the development of a green hydrogen curriculum development in Kenya. And when we started this, our idea was to have a standalone green hydrogen curriculum that I or either of the panelists could just go to an institution and learn about green hydrogen. But upon a lot of stakeholders engagement with the different institutions, even Bandari Maritime and Coast National Polytechnic, the idea was to do it in 3 ways. So the first way is to infuse these green hydrogen components or alternative fuels components in existing curriculum, which is a very sustainable approach. The second one is to develop now standalone units of competencies where institutions like National Polytechnics could have those courses, and someone can just go and take this course and be certified in it. And the third is, what one of the panelists mentioned here, continuous professional development. I am a mechanical engineer, and I see this opportunity of getting into hydrogen or alternative fuels. I can easily go and be reskilled and upskilled in this new technology based on the new curriculum that we're developing. So this curriculum development process is now towards the tail end. I think in the coming weeks, we are now meeting the regulators to just make sure that the quality is assured in this curriculum development process. And we also, welcome all of you to when this curriculum is out, then you can also take part in it, so that at least we now, it's from now calls to now an action, right? So that we have the right skills for a ready market when this space is now fully matured. And I really liked what my panelists said here about the situation is now. We need to do it now. That is just to wrap up what we have been supporting as GIZ. On overarching issues, there is now an academia working group. This academia working group includes, national, TVET institution and also university level institutions who are just sitting to, provide knowledge and understanding of this sector. How can we actually move to the next steps in regards to capacity and skills development? In the coming years, we have a lot of activities that we have already set out. First, I'll say we are currently developing capacity needs assessment again. Remember, I mentioned a capacity needs assessment, but now we are now scaling it down to the maritime sector specifically, and I already see some good connections in the panel that we might already build connections from and foster dialogue in. And then next year we also embark on doing summer schools for TVET students, industry professionals, so that we capacitate them in the next steps. Finally, I know I've spoken a lot because there's a lot of things. Finally, through the GIZ Corporation, we are coming up with a lab, which will be a center of excellence for students, university students, industry professionals to learn on these new technologies. This will be a fully equipped lab, and it will be an open access one that anyone can actually walk in and understand and learn about these technologies. I think I've spoken a lot. I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you very much. You've spoken a lot, but you've spoken very well. And you've spoken to the issues that are important to this forum. Now, I would just want to ask, while you are developing the alternative fuel curriculum, were you able to engage the practical people who use those skills? For example, did you have seafarers on board that panel?
Yes, ideally now we are at the step where we have just moved from where we sat down with curriculum developers like say Kenya National Coast Polytechnic or Bandari Maritime Academy. The next step is now for us to have sector skills advisory committees, and this also include seafarers and marine engineers in this field. Then after that, the regulators will now go through the TVET curriculum and then approve it for the next steps. But as of now, I think every box has been ticked, and we are working closely with the different regulators and also bodies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Back to Elizabeth, Captain Elizabeth. If you could redesign the curriculum for the nautical science today, in one word, what would it be? What aspect would you pick on?
I think it will be, the aspect I would pick on is where my heart lies. It will be on placement of seafarers on ships. So I think that's where we've gone wrong, terribly wrong. And very important that we go back to the drawing board. I suffered the same problem we're discussing here 15 years ago. We cannot be talking about it now. So I feel we need to go back to the drawing board and collaborate with institutions like Ghana that are really out there and, you know, going ahead of us. We are very competitive. We need to be the regional hub. So we need to pick up the slack as Kenya. So seafarers placement.
Thank you very much. And I believe all of us are thinking towards the same trajectory, enhancing our skills, connecting our skills to where they need to be, on board ships, in the ports, in the entire blue economy. Everyone has a role to play here. There is nobody to be left behind. You had even the scientists also on board. So therefore, this is a very critical moment as a country, whereby we need to leverage on the collaborative frameworks between training, the industry, the employers, as well as the development partners. We've also heard about the role of technology, innovation, ICT, digitalization. So all these are where the world is moving, and Kenya cannot afford to be left behind. So as MET institutions, we need to work on the frameworks of reskilling and upskilling our seafarers. While we are still saying we are still developing our curricula, the rest of the world is also moving towards where the technology is taking them and where the alternative fuels are taking them, and therefore we will have to have a double job. Develop our own as well as expand and reach where the others are. So as we conclude, bridging the gap between academia and learning also does not leave maritime transport and logistics behind, because ports will always visit, ships will always visit ports, and in the ports, they will interface with the shore-based workers. Therefore, Edison, do not allow your cohort to be left behind in this journey of bridging the gap. So therefore, as I conclude, I will say that the role of development partners is key, it's critical. They have the resources, and they are able to help us to move to the next level in terms of bridging where we cannot financially, in terms of technology, and sometimes even in terms of linking us with the knowledge, the international knowledge that is out there. They can help us to build capacity. I would like to thank all of you panelists for a very informative and thought-provoking discussion. We hope that all the members in this room or auditorium have something to take home, which we can also action as individuals, as institutions, and as a country, aligned with today's theme as our contribution to the maritime and the blue economy. And just as a rejoinder, our theme is our ocean, our obligation, and our opportunity. So no one should be left behind. Thank you. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you to the panel. You will have an opportunity to stand and take a group photo. But I also wanted to give an additional panelist that missed an opportunity to say something. He will speak, but he'll take the photo first. So please, Mr. Jacob, can you join the platform for a picture? Please, let's come forward. Joseph, yes, please. The instructions are the center. That's okay? Yeah, good. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time and thank you for your contributions. Now, I want to give Mr. Joseph from Kenya National Shipping Line an opportunity to give also his inputs. I know he had come prepared, and the topic for the day was quite enriching. So I have retained the moderator so that they can have a small conversation so that we also get that contribution in line with our discussions of the day. Much apologies and welcome to the floor.
Thank you. Sorry for the little mix-up. My name is Joseph Juma. Thank you so much. And sorry for the little mix-up. My name is Joseph Juma, representing Kenya National Shipping Line. Now this, for me, has been a pet subject for over 15 years now. And I think when we look at the relationships between the Met institutions and the shipping industry, the main idea here is the uplifting and promotion of the seafaring. But we have a couple of pieces of news here, historically. In the 80s, some of you would recall, Kenya was quite good in seafaring, and most of the estates here in Mombasa were developed by seafarers. I know for the Gen Zs, that is hard to fathom, but if you hear of Likoni, Kongowea, Kisauni, most of those estates were developed by seafarers. So it is a big deal, and somehow we missed the step and we went back. But I think it is something that we can jointly revive and make it an international brand. We have what it takes in terms of the potential to create very competent seafarers, because we are starting from a background of some comparative advantage. In Kenya, we have a very youthful population. That is to our credit. Again, we have educated populace. Our population is well educated. We also know that Kenyans are hardworking. But you see, these things, we have them here. We need to show that we are able and capable. For a few of our students or our youths who have had the opportunity to get engaged, I can tell you the compliments that we have seen is something that is quite encouraging. So what we would say is we must consider this as a package. It comes from awareness campaigns so that people are aware there is something that we call blue economy, and it has to be propelled by human resource. And the human resource here are the seafarers. You move there, you go to the Met institutions. They are capacitated. I think KMA has been doing that quite often. We have, I think there are over 10, if I'm not wrong. So these institutions are then supposed to liaise with the ship owners, shipping companies, so that they know what is the latest that is needed of these people. But as a country also, we need to try to assist because after the Met institutions, you don't stop there. You will need to deal with matter certification, where the Maritime Administrator comes in. From there, we deal with issues to do with sea time and actual deployment at sea, and also make provisions for the returnees for shore jobs. Those who can now come and train in Bandari College. They have been to sea several years. They can come back when they are now retired to train now the new group They can also be merchants. They can also be working at the ports or shipping companies on land, so that it is an entire package. So what else do we need to do with this? Because the issue then is the fear of going into training en masse because you don't see off-tech of deployment or internship. And then on the other hand, shipping companies, some of them we interact with in the quest for deployments or positions there in terms of sea time. When they ask for statistics, we are very low on personnel, quite low, particularly the officers. So something needs to give, because we can't say, you know, it is egg and chicken, which one comes first? Do I need to train before the assurance of a job, or do I need to get the assurances when I go and train? So this issue needs to be taken as any other training. I'll pose a question. All of us here have some background, apart from the seafaring for which we are here, the World Maritime Day in this panel. So when you want to become a medical doctor, it is a process of education from your early childhood education to high school and the rest. At what point do you stop and ask, will I be allowed to inject or administer drugs before you continue studies? So you have to go all the way. As at the same time, the industry and the government and the other private sector play a role in trying to help out. Because one of the things is in terms of what we call the sea time, what we have encountered is some other countries even engage. You just have a fund and then you push these people out to go for sea time and we pay for it.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes.
Juma, for a very elaborate background. Probably in 2 minutes, if you could tell us what plans Kenya National Shipping Line has in terms of building capacity or providing sea time for our upcoming cadets. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Currently, Kenya National Shipping Line is targeting a start with a short, what we call coastal shipping, together with transshipment. And this obviously will call for vessel ownership. And one of the priorities is to try to attach our able seafarers in terms of sea time and in terms of actual deployment. So as we start, and you know those ones don't come, it is not that you will have 20 vessels at a go. You will start small, but our intention is to capacitate the people we have in a small way, but also liaise with others for which probably we have some service agreement to try to also pick some of the Kenyans to train and then to get deployed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Juma, for a very good summary. Probably we can now give back to the program director to take up the questions, and probably some of the questions that you're going to speak about will come up in that question and answer session. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we give them a good round of applause for that very nice conversation. I know there were questions, so I'll just open a few minutes for very few questions, and I'd like to invite the Assistant Director, Marine Environment Protection, Mr. Michael, to moderate that Q&A session before we close, because that would be the last item of the day.
All right, thank you so much, Madam Nuru. I think you have had the pleasure to listen to two great panels, one on the e-fuels and another one on the maritime education and training. So are there any burning questions from the audience? And kindly, if possible, you can direct the questions to either of the panel, either panel 1 or panel 2. We have a hand Kindly anyone to pass the microphone to, there's a gentleman up there.
Good afternoon, all. We are very glad to have this meeting today, and I congratulate all people who have been here. The only problem we have in Kenya, we don't focus on the seafarers a lot. The problem is coming sometime correct, sometime wrong. Because all people ahead of us, they don't focus on their logistic on the right way. So we have to murmur here and there to look which is the right way. But today, we have got a good solution, and now we can follow the steps that were said here today. And the only thing I can tell you, we are very strong for this job, but you are letting us down. Even you are defeated with Tanzanians, and Tanzanians are not.
Thank you. Do you have any specific question? And thank you so much for your insights. But are you having a specific question?
My specific question is that we need low rates in training. We have to reduce the money that they go for training.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. We have someone from here. Kindly pass the microphone.
Salamu alaikum. Kwa majina naitwa Omena. Mimi nitaongea kwa Kiswahili.
And please, as you take the microphone, make sure that your question is very short and straight. Probably you avoid giving a background of your question. Just go straight to the question and which panel you are addressing the question to.
Hii swali langu ni kwa paneli ya pili ya Maritime Education. Tunaongea mambo mengi, blue economy na hizo, na sasa tumeenda kwa e-fuel. Lakini hatujaweka mikakati ya kusaidia layman wa kawaida. Kwa sababu hawa ndugu zetu, swali ni hivi.
Question, yeah.
Tunapokwenda katika vikao, tunapoongea nao wenye mameli, tujaribu kuzingatia ndugu zetu wanaoambiwa kazi kuwa kuna age limit. Tumeongea mambo mengi, lakini mambo ya age limit na seat time bado hatujafikiria. So kama medical umefanya
so question
my question is, you have been allowed to go for medical, and why are the ship owners denying people employment on the vessels because of age limit? Age limit, who created this age limit?
All right, we have a question on age limit. Members of panel 2, anyone who is willing to take that question? Panel 2? Members of panel 2? Hello, panelists. We have a question on age limit. Who is willing to respond to that question? Can you pass the microphone?
Hello. I think from my perspective, age limit is not dependent on us a country. It's mostly dependent on the vessels. And that one, we can't do anything about it because most shipping lines, in terms of engine or deck, as a cadet, they have a limit. You can't go past 30 or 35. That one is not dependent on the country, but mostly the specifications of the ships or the places of work.
Thank you so much. So age limit is the ship policy, not a country policy. That's how Madam is telling us. So there's please just, this gentleman here. We are taking just 2 more questions.
Good evening. My name is Ako Benson. I have 2 questions. The first one goes to...
One, please, one. Or just see how you combine them.
They're 2 separate, but I'll summarize it. One is, what is the stakeholders' take on establishing a fund akin to that of tourism fund within the maritime sector? Number two, what is the first panelist view on the statement that was made by the President of USA concerning going back to traditional energy sources on the backdrop of the IMO Green Voyage 2050? Thank you.
Okay, yeah. First question, fund. Similar to that, similar to a tourism fund, but you've asked this question to stakeholders. So any stakeholders here on top of the panelists that have any opinion towards the question from the gentleman. And then members of my panel, panel one, you will also respond to the second question. So any stakeholder willing to answer that question, or members of panel two, who is willing to take that question? Stakeholders, any take on having a fund, just like the tourism fund, so having a maritime fund to, support maritime activities and so forth. There's a microphone there.
Thank you so much. The speaker, I think this has been an issue that is being talked about. The only thing is that creation of a fund is a process of legislation because we've discussed this. But while that has been something that is ongoing, it is the scope of this fund which is also an item of agreement, because if you go to the people who are doing the commercial business, they would be talking about the funding of the maritime as a sector that could also be borrowed into by people who want to even buy vessels and those who want to engage in some other commercial output. Now, it is a process of, but in the meantime, the other issues that were really demanding, which I think is the reason why the colleague has raised it, was that some of these seafarers that we are trying to train and deploy have had challenges in terms of training fees, in terms of certification, and in terms of other miscellaneous costs to onboard a ship. So I know that there have been arrangements. I think KMA has been putting in something, and also the help.
So in your opinion, do you think it's necessary?
It will be.
It will be
definitely be necessary.
All right. Okay, thank you, sir. I am the discussions at the UN General Assembly, and the gentleman has specifically addressed some comments made by one of the president in this world. So panelists number two, panel one, who is willing to respond? And in light of the IMO Net Zero framework that is being discussed at the International Maritime Organization. So members of panel one, kindly, that is the last question we are taking. The DG is already here to officiate another program. So panel one, please.
Hello. It's a very important question and a very pertinent one as we're facing a big decision coming next month at the IMO. I think, of course, the US is powerful in a lot of these big, international decisions, but from what I can see, none of the momentum elsewhere has stopped. And I think, we hear some of the narrative that's coming out of the US, and, I think that is, of course, making people think twice. But I'd say that the momentum towards e-fuels, towards greener fuels, cannot be stopped now. We're already too far down. People understand the economic, the moral imperative, all of the other imperatives, and the US won't stop that.
Thank you so much for those insights. One last one. No, we are taking the last one, kindly, please, due to time. And please do not make a background of your question and so forth. Just go straight to the question and which panel you're addressing to. Straight to the question, please.
Okay, the second panel. My question is that we want to make Kenya a ship hub. Which mechanism have you put to ensure that Kenya become a ship hub or a container hub within Africa? Two, I want to say that Kenya has ratified 32 conventions. How many of them have been domesticated to ensure that Kenya seafarers find the amicable solutions? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And that's the last question. We are closing at those questions. I think the first question is too relevant to Mr. Juma. Could you kindly take that question?
Thank you. Now, in terms of container hub, shipping hub, I think it depends on which hub, but these are some of the maybe key parameters to have a hub. We can talk of port being a hub by virtue of improving the infrastructure, deepening the channel, and so that there is a possibility that bigger vessels can then bring cargo here and drop them for smaller vessels to then transship them to neighboring smaller ports. That is one way of making it a hub. You can also make it a hub through bunkering. If you go big into bunkering, so that the vessels will always come here and do their bunkering before setting on sail. And some of these things there has to be input to them. So the same thing, if we want to make Kenya a brand in terms of seafaring international labor, then we have to project ourselves in terms of training, in terms of equipment, and in terms of competencies, and then we will be able to. So I think the developments that we see in port today, KPA, is gearing towards that intention, and also some of the plans for bunkering will also improve the same. And I think we will all benefit from this. Thank you.
All right. The second part of the question, I'll invite Engineer Luke Samba. And it's basically, we have ratified many IMO conventions, and which specifically on seafarers have we domesticated. So Engineer Luke Samba, kindly, you could address that question.
Thank you very much to the moderator, and thank you very much for the question. Yes, it's true, Kenya has ratified more than 32 conventions emanating from the International Maritime Organization, dealing with safety, security, marine environment protection, the engagement and welfare of seafarers, and facilitation of maritime trade. We have, so the process is that we ratify, we accept to be bound by the convention. The convention enters into force, meaning that adequate number of countries have accepted it, and then it is applied all over, worldwide. So ratification then is followed by domestication, meaning you develop regulations nationally to implement the convention. But for Kenya, there are two things. We have Article 2.6 of the Constitution, which states that any convention ratified by Kenya forms part of the laws of Kenya. So that is one. Then there are provisions on enforcement, which majority of them for the maritime component are included in our Merchant Shipping Act. If you ask the lawyers, they'll tell you that the Merchant Shipping Act is one of the biggest pieces of legislation in this country, and they touch on many of those conventions that are ratified by Kenya. We have gone ahead and developed legislation to implement most of the major conventions. So if you look at SOLAS, you look at MAPOL, you look at STCW, you will find that there are regulations emanating from the Merchant Shipping Act that are specifically addressing the convention. So therefore, we cannot say that there is no regulation to enable us implement conventions that we are ratified. There is a legal framework and process in which we can enforce them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and that will be the end of our questions and answer session. Now I have the honor to invite our DG, Kenya Maritime Authority, to make his closing remarks. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I think it's not closing remarks. It is to say the final words of the day, and I thank everyone who has been with us since morning. I know it has been a long day, but you are being here all this time means you have commitment to this industry. We started, and we are lucky today, with our collaborators, Coast Polytechnic and GIZ. We had the Honorable Minister for Education. The governor eventually came, but he came late, but he did grace the occasion, and we ate lunch together. That shows the commitment from this region and Kenya as a maritime nation. We might have said, or we did not, bring it clearly that Kenya is going for the election in the IMO Council in December. Kenya is a hub for this region. Somebody has asked about being a hub. Yes. You might have seen even recently, the port of Lamu has started receiving vessels, and the big vessels, and promoting transshipment. We started and went and spoke about and making the industry green shipping. And we spoke about e-fuels. And we have launched the feasibility study here today. When I was sitting here earlier, I've read the summary and I felt intrigued that this is the direction we should be taking. And indeed, we should be there. Not talking about 2050, 2040, but this is the future where we belong. And this region, we need to start taking those steps so that we are there, not in 2050, but in the next few years. And we thank the development partners who are assisting us in doing this. I have listened to the panel discussion, including the one for trade this afternoon. I didn't know that we have such and nice engaging experts. And I think we need to have this engagement. We need to engage more often and see how we can create jobs in this industry. We need to bridge that gap between academia and the industry and be able to see where the future is going so that we are able to train our youngsters to take advantage of this. What I need to promise as DG here is that I should not be waiting for the World Maritime Day to do this engagement. With the team here, one meeting, please. We have enough books. And that shows the excitement we have about this. I was saying that we need to have more engagement, maybe quarterly, and have a particular topic which we should discuss to see how we can bridge the gap between academia and the industry, and see how we can create jobs, see how we can uplift our standards of training to meet the international standards. We thank those development partners who are assisting us now in bridging that gap. In the next 1 year, we should have more recognition agreements, and we hope by that time we'll have even the EU with us so that we are able to create more opportunities. This is not a speech. I can see people are tired. I thank you all for coming to be with us today. Asante sana. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DG, for your time. I know you have a tight schedule, so we don't take this for granted. We want to wind up. We have done all what we intended to do for today. We want to thank God as well and wish you well as you leave. So I want to take this opportunity to invite Madam Tumaini Namoyo to give us a vote of thanks. We also need to thank the DG while he's thanking everybody for being here before we leave. Please come, Mama. Yeah.
Hi, thank you. Hey, I have been ambushed, DG. I've been caught with my hair down, but anyway, it is okay. So my two names are Tumaini Namoya. I'm actually feeling very, very nice to be back home because this has been home for me. I was here for 15 years before I went into retirement about 2 or so years ago. So anytime I'm called upon to come back to KMA, wow, I feel nice. I feel I'm happy I'm back home. So it's really a pleasure to be here. So I'm here under 3 hats. The first one is ICS, Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, where I'm the vice president. And then I'm also here under the World Maritime University alumni. And then also I'm here under the hat of WOMESA, Women in Maritime in Eastern and Southern Africa. I think our vice chair is here. Where's Jen? There she is. That's our vice chair. So mine is actually a very simple task. Very, very simple. I have been asked to move a vote of thanks for this day, the World Maritime Day and Maritime Affair. And that is the theme up there, our ocean, our obligation, and our opportunity. Definitely, we are taking home a lot of information, isn't it? Yes, I think it has been very fruitful, very energizing, and very informative. So I will just merely list the people who have participated or made it possible for this event to be the success that it has been. I will begin with the chief guest, who was Honorable Julius Ogamba, the CS of Education. And then there was the representative of the PS, Maritime and Shipping Department, Major Retired George Okongo, who was also my former DG when I was here, and he was there. And then His Excellency, the Governor of Mombasa County, His Excellency Abdul Somad Sharif Nasir. He, as DG says, he was not here, but he was able to catch up with the rest of the program at lunchtime. And then there was the KMA board chair, Honorable Kolosh Ahmed. He must have left by now. And then there are also board members, quite a good number of board members from KMA. Then there was, of course, the DG himself, who is the host of the event. Then there was the Deputy Program Director, GIZ. He must be still here. And then these are the 2 key sponsors of this event. That is the Kenya Coast National Polytechnic and the GIZ. They have done a very, very good job. I think you've seen exactly what has happened today. And then we had the exhibitions at the back of this hall. There are quite a good number of them. I will not list them here. Oh, no. I have the list here. There's a Kenya Coast National Polytechnic. There was KUSEPS, Harbourview Maritime College. There was Mount Kenya University. There was Bandari Maritime Academy, where Edison comes from, where I also go part-time. There was a ChemFree. There was a Seaforth Recruiting Agency. They were the panelists of the 2 panel sessions we had this afternoon. Then there was a security. This is the National Police Service. I think we are well covered here. And then there was the KPA Sea Scouts. They mounted a guard of honor outside here, a beautiful one. Then there was a service provider, the KICC. I'm sure you enjoyed the coffee, you enjoyed the tea, and you enjoyed the lunch, didn't you? And I think there's still some more after this. So we must really appreciate the service. And then we were well entertained by the KMA choir. That one, I think, kila mtu, please put up your hand if you didn't enjoy. Oh, if you enjoyed yourself. We really were well entertained by the KMA choir. Keep it up, choir. And then there are many other institutions who have come here, like the one I've named, ICS, WMU, WOMESA, and many others. Thank you so, so much for coming out here to make this event a great success. I think that is all I can say. DG, once again, thank you so much. If you want me back, I'll come back.
Thank you, Mama Tumaini. So our last item is a closing prayer. I want to invite Magdalene from Kenya Coast National Polytechnic to give us a word of prayer before we leave. There is.
Thank you very much, all protocol observed. I want to appreciate this opportunity. I request that we may be upstanding for the final prayer. So let us believe and pray. Father, we are before you this evening with thanksgiving in our hearts. We want to thank you because you have been with us since morning when we started these celebrations and the Maritime Fair. We want to glorify you for you have guided us throughout this day. We have seen your favor and grace throughout this day. And we want to thank you for all the participants that have been in this activity today, Jehovah. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for all the stakeholders. We want to thank you even for the Kenya Maritime Authority, for GIZ, for our Polytechnic, and all other stakeholders that came here today, because without them, this activity would not have been a success. We want to thank you even for the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that has been disseminated today. And we pray, Jehovah, that this maritime sector shall grow, that this maritime sector shall go green, that this maritime sector shall thrive by the power that is in your name. We want to thank you, Jehovah, even as we disperse. We pray that you shall walk with each one of us to our various destinations. For we pray this in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you very much. We have tea outside, and we are humbly requesting for journey mercies for those who are traveling back home. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.